Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today, I'm going to be asking you some questions and also taking up some of your questions in another segment of Ask Judy. As many of you will know, I have been doing some segments about cast members and various different guest stars and just highlighting other things about their lives and their career and what have been some of my favorite moments and scenes and episodes for these various different characters. I'm going to be taking a look at Ronnie Claire Edwards soon, who played Corbeth Godsey. So I thought that besides sharing some of my favorite moments of Ronnie Claire's as Corbeth, I would also find out from you what some of your favorites are, and I can also highlight some of those. So chime in the comments below, and I'll start gathering up some of the favorites of yours. This was an observation from Dark Vader, who was saying, not sure if you with viewers mentioned or noticed this, but in the episode The Townie with Sissy Spacek, you can clearly see a crew member hanging off the side of the truck, and you can see his face as well with glasses on. Do you know who this crew member is, Judy, and why would he be hanging off the side like that? He's in the entire scene every time the camera is pointed at both John Boy and Sarah in the back of the truck as they go home from the picture show. This is the first time I ever noticed him, despite watching this episode well over 15 times. Okay, so I looked back at that, and indeed, at a couple of different points, you do see a person there sort of hanging off the side of the truck on the driver's side. Now, in looking at this, sometimes I've talked about with vehicle scenes that some of them are done live, like the truck or car is actually driving down the road, and a lot of times when it comes to dialogue, particularly if they are inside the car, so you see the driver and the passenger and they're having a conversation. A lot of those inside the vehicle shots are done with what we call a process shot, which is where they take the vehicle into a soundstage and they put it onto sort of a platform thing, or they might not even, but they lock the wheels off so it's not rolling forward. And then they run a film projector behind, like in the direction the camera's shooting. So if they're shooting me sitting here talking to somebody, the screen would be behind us and the camera is in front shooting at us. So wherever the camera's pointed in the background, they will project footage of that road so that it looks like they're going down the road. And then there would be a couple of crew members, grips usually, who have big sort of 2x4s that they're using as levers to sort of move the vehicle. So there's some sense of the vehicle moving. And then also as the lights are positioned, they would have someone else who has like a branch, of leaves. And they would periodically swipe that leaf branch across in front of the light so that you get the reflection as if leaves and branches, that there's shadows on the people, as if, that's happening from the trees that they're going along as they're driving. So I was looking at this scene and trying to determine if it was done as a process shot, and it didn't particularly look that way to me, although it could have been, but I'm getting more the sense that they actually shot it because John Boy and Sarah sitting in the back of the truck, that they could have actually had a camera there. They could have been following with a camera truck, or they could have had the camera just literally in the bed of the truck. And however it was done there, then my guess is that this crew person was there to somehow be coordinating some piece of what they were doing, whether it had to do with light, whether it had to do with communicating to the driver, whether it had to do with some sort of safety thing to make sure everything was still okay with the road in front of them. I'm not sure who the actual crew person was because I couldn't see enough of his face to identify him. But and my other sense is that, and I don't know if this is the case here, but very well could be that John Dayton talked to me a few times about how the aspect ratio of the framing has changed over the years. That at the time we shot it, like when a camera operator looks through the lens, they can see what would be sort of movie aspect ratio, so more rectangular, like we're used to watching on our TV screens today. And then there would be a frame within that was more square, which was the aspect ratio of square TVs from when these episodes were originally filmed. A lot of the older episodes back when TVs were square. So that was what would be actually visible on the TV screens. So sometimes when the camera operator looked through that lens, he could see the square of what the audience would see, but he could also see what was just outside that square in the sort of more rectangular aspect ratio. And sometimes there were things like lights or people or, equipment stands or a car or something that, or the microphone. And he might say, yeah, I can see that, but it's not going to be in the actual TV frame. And so it was okay, and they didn't worry about it. But now that things are being shown we see them in a rectangular, that some of those things are now visible to us that didn't used to be. So it is also possible that it was something like that. But I have a feeling they just didn't notice that you could see the person. Just like you said, you watched it 15 times and didn't notice it. And if you hadn't brought my attention to it, I wouldn't have noticed it either, because I was busy focused on Richard and Sissy Spacek doing this beautiful scene. So that's the best explanation I have. I have been asked by many of you about other particular guest stars, guest actors, things like that, and could I try to have them as guests? And there are any number of people I would love to have as guests, but what I'm running up against is that I don't know how to contact them. And if I had contact info on them, it's old and they've moved, I've moved, somehow we've lost track of each other. Social media is really useful. So a lot of the people that I've been able to get back in touch with, it's been because I've been able to reach them on social media or something and leave them a message, and we've been able to connect that way. Or somebody I know knows how to reach him. Or in some cases, some of you have reached out to me because you know somebody and you know how to reach them and said, hey, would you be interested in interviewing so-and-so? And typically I'll say, yes, of course, please let me know if they are interested. And then I can sometimes try and coordinate with one of you about how to reach this person so that I can connect with them. In other times, I've reached out to people on social media and never heard back from them. So I don't know if they don't look at their social media. I know there's parts of like my Facebook, which is the one that I sort of look at the most, but I don't get into a lot of my private messages very often. I'm sorry. It's simply, I do not have the time. Dealing with trying to stay on top of all of your wonderful comments and questions here on YouTube leaves me very little extra time to then also explore who's talking to me and all the comments on my Facebook page or the messages on my Facebook page. So I'm sorry, I run out of time. And, so if you've left me a message somewhere that I haven't seen yet, I apologize, and hopefully I'll have a chance to scroll through some of those before too long. I also sometimes, if there's some sort of contact info or representative or something that I can reach out to, and I've done that with 2 or 3 people where I've reached out to their press agent or their agent, and sometimes, I'll get an answer back saying, yes, we'll forward this message to whoever it is, and then I never hear anything. So I don't know whether it was forwarded and the actor, forgot, was like, oh, I'll get back to him later. It went down the inbox like my messages frequently do, because you get so many. It's like, oh, whatever happened to that message? And months later, I'll find it when I'm clearing stuff out. Or maybe it just wasn't of interest to them for whatever reason, or it wasn't a good time. And I just never hear back. So, I'm left going, well, they weren't interested, or they didn't get the message, or so I just don't always know. There's also the aspect that with, people who are still really kind of A-list actors, someone like a Sissy Spacek or a Jonathan Frakes or a Ron Howard, again, their bandwidth of availability and time to do things and to do interviews, and probably the sheer volume of requests that they get, their representatives may not share something that they feel isn't prominent enough, isn't going to give them a large enough exposure to, it's not going to reach a big enough audience to, in their opinion, warrant them making time to do that when they have a limited availability of time to do things. So sometimes if I can personally reach someone, then they might say, oh yeah, I'll come do that. I love doing the Waltons. And it's not to say they didn't love doing the Waltons. A lot of times it's just all of those things that happen, and, or they may not like doing media. Or it could be any number of reasons. So I'm going to take it that it's not because they didn't have a wonderful time doing the Waltons or that they don't like me. I'm just going to figure that, like me, they're very busy, but 10 times that what I am. And so if I don't get some of these people and I'm not able to connect with them, that's really kind of what it is. And it's not because I'm not interested. So I hope that helps explain a bit. Thank you for joining me for this segment of Ask Judy. If you have a question, put it in the comments below and I will try to take it up in a future segment. If you do enjoy these segments, please do hit like and subscribe. I'll see you next time for more behind the scenes of the Waltons. Thanks for watching.